Hello, it's Tuesday, October the 9th, 2018, and you're watching LifeTalk. I'm Mark Crutcher, president of Life Dynamics, and lurking on the other side of the table is my worthy assistant.
That's right, lurking.
And comical sidekick.
That's right.
Renee
Hello,
Hobbs.
everybody.
And you may notice that Sheila's not here with us this week. She has got bronchitis and some other things. She's had this problem ever since she was a little baby. And it flares up 2 or 3 times a year, especially when the allergies are bad. So
When the weather changes, yeah.
she sounds awful. So
It's just us.
that's just us two, like it used to be
That's
back
right.
in the old days.
Yep.
Also, you may hear from time to time during today's show thunder. We are having some thunderstorms here in North Texas, and so it's pretty loud outside. There's not much we can do without that. And also, because of the rain, the dogs are inside.
Right, so there may be a little bit of barking going on.
There may be some barking and other noises coming from our 3 dogs that come up here every day. But anyway, we'll get through all that. So if you're hearing those weird noises in the background, that's what it's all about. Anyway, we're going to take a break now. We've got a lot of stuff to go over today, and we're going to take a break first for RoeBots.
In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide. The decision is called Roe versus Wade, and those who defend it are known as RoeBots. This is how they think.
The issue is not whether abortion is right or wrong. The issue is who decides, the woman or the government.
Well, of course these people want you to think that right and wrong doesn't matter because they know that abortion is wrong. If they thought for 1 second that they could defend the morality of abortion, that's what they'd be trying to do. But since they know that can't be done, they push this idea that whether abortion is the deliberate killing of a living human being or not is somehow irrelevant to whether it should be legal or not. This absurd argument has reached the point that many abortion apologists now openly contend that even if they were absolutely convinced that the unborn are living human beings, they would still say that women have the right to kill them if they choose to do so. Now, what I want to know is this. What is it about abortion that makes it different from every other kind of human behavior? I mean, no one ever says right and wrong doesn't matter when it comes to killing born people. And we don't hear that argument being made when it comes to child molesting or spousal abuse, rape, armed robbery, racial discrimination, insider stock manipulation, or any other issue. The only time we see this argument being used is when someone is trying to justify butchering the unborn. The fact is, this whole who decides strategy is meant to keep the public from looking at what's being decided. And by the way, this same strategy has been used before. In the 1858 presidential debate between Stephen Douglas and Abraham Lincoln, Douglas said that even though he was personally opposed to slavery, he would not legislate against it because the government has no right to be involved and that individual citizens should be allowed to decide whether to own slaves or not based on their own moral values. Lincoln's response was that Douglas was correct as long as there is nothing wrong with the practice of slavery. But, he said, if slavery is wrong, then Douglas cannot say that there is a right to do wrong. Of course, in the 1800s, Lincoln's position was rejected by those who supported legalized slavery, and today it is rejected by those who support legalized abortion. In the end, the fundamental question is, does abortion cause the death of a living human being or does it not? And no society can call itself civilized while saying that the answer to that question doesn't matter. The fact is, it's the only thing that does matter. Welcome back. The news has been dominated by the Kavanaugh situation, and now that's
Very much so.
It's over, and we're kind of moving on, hopefully, from that. But I had an observation the other day I brought up to you, Renee, because what we're seeing is that there's a lot of backlash among a lot of people that were otherwise either Democrats or independents or whatever, who are saying, when I watched this and I saw what these savages on the left, the Democrats, were doing, I was disgusted, and it kind of turned them off. And it kind of reminded me, I made a joke about this the other day with you. Does it seem like to you that the Democrats going after Trump is like the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. You remember?
I love that analogy.
You know,
you can't get any more perfect than that,
Right.
honestly. Because they try so hard to get him impeached or to just see
Turn
him
people
fall
against him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fall in his face.
Right.
And it's never going to happen.
It doesn't work.
It just does not work.
And every time they try something, it's like it blows up in their face, just like
Yeah, that's-
everything Wile E. Coyote tried
No,
blew up in
I
his
think it's awesome. I mean, he paints a picture of a road going through a bridge,
Right.
and the road runner can still run through it, but he can't.
Right.
And, I mean, they try and try and try, and
The
it just
funniest
fails.
is he's going to catch this Roadrunner by tying this Acme rocket on his back. And all it does is send him off a cliff, and he drops 5,000 feet down to the bottom of the
Yeah.
ravine.
I love that cartoon when I was little.
Oh, I did too. But anyway, it just seems like to me that that's a perfect analogy.
Right.
That
No, it
these
is.
that these degenerates on the left just keep going after Trump, and he
Right.
just keeps.
He
You know,
keeps it
they think they've got him.
prevailing.
They always say, "Oh, we got him on this
Yeah,
one. He's
right.
he's done. He's
Right.
history." And a
Yeah.
week later, he's smiling and grinning, and
I
everything's
know it.
fine.
Well, he feeds off of it. He loves it.
Yeah. So I think he's the Roadrunner, and they're the Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, definitely.
And but anyway,
Definitely so.
I think there's some lessons we need to take from this situation with Kavanaugh, some serious lessons
Sure.
beyond the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner analogy. And I hope that one of the things that happened here, you know, we've talked many times here before about what a bunch of sniveling cowards the Republican Party is made up
That's right.
of. I think that Trump may be teaching the Republicans how to fight.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. And even with the Kavanaugh hearing and how Senator Lindsey Graham stood up, they call him the Republican lion,
Right.
which is an awesome
Right.
analogy of
Right.
that too.
And he was never that way before.
No. And
he
he's
was
still
always-
not.
No, he's not. And
But-
he was always the kind of one of the typical garden variety weenie Republicans
Right.
that we see so much of. But apparently he had just had enough, and he took the Democrats to task.
Right.
But let me tell you something I believe, and this is what I'm saying when I say maybe Trump is teaching the Republicans how to fight. Mm-hmm. I think that when this whole thing blew up with Kavanaugh, let's say that John McCain had been president, or Bob Dole, or one of the other old line garden variety Republicans, I think they'd have dropped him. I think they'd have called Kavanaugh in and said, "Look, this is going to hurt the Republican Party. This is not good for you and your family. It's not good for me. I'm going to withdraw your nomination, and we'll put somebody else that we can get in."
Right. Yeah. I mean, it would just be so much easier
Right.
to them.
Exactly. I think that's what they would have done.
Yeah.
And so maybe, you know, Trump, it's just kind of his pugnacious personality.
Right.
When he kind of looked at the Democrats and said, "To hell with you.
Yeah. You're not going to win.
You're not going to win. We're sticking with our guy."
That's right.
Right.
We are going to confirm Kavanaugh. Well, and the Republicans, they just want to be liked, and they want to be voted in the next time.
That's
And
right.
they have an agenda here, and they just don't want to step on toes is the problem.
They're the country club Republicans.
Right.
They want to be collegial
Right.
and get along with everybody. And you know, one thing, we're not the only ones noticing this. Pat Buchanan, who used to be senior advisor to Richard Nixon when he was president, wrote an article that says, "Are Republicans born wimps?" And this was out just a few days ago. And he was quoting Jerry Falwell Jr., who's quickly becoming kind of one of my heroes. But he said, Republican leaders are a bunch of wimps. And the Republicans and the Christian community and conservatives in this country need to stop electing nice guys. Falwell said, quote, "The U.S. needs street fighters like Donald Trump at every level of government because the liberal fascist Dems are playing for keeps." And he's right. I mean, these savages on the left, whether you're talking about the Democratic Party and I don't care about political parties one way or the other, Republicans or Democrats, either one, but whether you're talking about the Democratic Party or just the standard godless left,
Right.
the media, we're seeing clearly, and we saw it in this deal.
Right.
These people are a bunch of savages.
They won't back down, and they're not going to.
No.
They're fighting for keeps
Right.
here.
And we either recognize that and get in the battle. You know, and it's like, you know, as I've said many times here before, one of my heroes is George Patton. And you certainly couldn't call him any kind of weenie or wimp or guy that would just say what was necessary politically to get along. He was a fighter.
Right. He did what he thought was right,
And without him, we'd all be speaking German right now.
That's right.
You know.
Right.
So the ones of us that are still alive.
Yep.
And the Republicans, I think, maybe, if they've got any sense at all, they need to look at what happened here, and say, yeah, I think Trump's right. I think we can fight these people. We can win.
Right.
But we've got to get down and dirty just like they are.
That's right.
That's right.
I hope so.
Because let me tell you something, Renee, we've talked about this a million times here before. And I've said it a million times. I wrote this back in the 80s in a book that I wrote called Firestorm. And I always said, the closer we get to victory, the nastier and more brutal and more savage the other side will get.
Yeah, they are nasty.
And that's what we're seeing.
I pull the news every day
Right.
just to see what's going on and if we have something breaking that
Right.
we need to discuss. Just this morning, I have about 6 topics here of liberals call white women gender traitors for supporting Justice Kavanaugh. And then a liberal teacher tweets, who's going to take one for the team and kill Kavanaugh? And then they want to castrate
All men.
all men, yes.
Right.
And that masculinity is literally toxic. And they had the paid anti-Kavanaugh protesters there. That's another one. I mean, it's just, and then pro-life Senator Cory Gardner's wife receives a graphic video of beheading for supporting Kavanaugh. I mean, it's just, it's
goes
just
on and on.
nasty. It's
Right.
evil.
Right.
I mean, there were more, but I kind of quit, but it's just, they're nasty.
They're horrible, horrible people. And they're not just simply people we disagree with.
Right.
We've talked about this a million times. This is a cultural civil war.
Right.
And we better see what's going on. And I think that the way to look at this Kavanaugh situation is not that this is a gigantic victory, because we really don't know if this is going to be a victory yet or not. No one can tell me this guy's hardcore pro-life or how he's going to rule on some abortion deal.
Not until that time
It actually happens, because we've been betrayed and stabbed in the back many times in the past.
That's right.
And I've said it before. We're more likely to get stabbed in the back by the Republicans than we are to be stabbed in the chest by the Democrats. And I've always rather have my enemy in front of me than behind me.
Right.
And so we don't know what Kavanaugh's going to do.
Yeah,
We have no idea.
Yep.
And we may be looking up here 2 years from now and say, hey, this is another David Souter, or this is another the woman that Reagan put on. That's now
Sandra Day
O'Connor. This is going to be another one of her. I remember at the time when Reagan put her on, everybody was saying, "Oh, she's hardcore pro-life," and I'm sure Reagan got her aside and talked to her and said, "I want to see something done about abortion." She turned out to be a raging pro-abort.
Right.
So
Or
we
Justice
don't know.
Kennedy, yeah.
Right.
The list goes on.
The list is endless.
That's right.
But I think what we ought to do is, and I heard somebody make this analogy today on television, and I thought it's a perfect analogy. We need to look at this victory as like D-Day. If you go back to World War II and you look at what happened on D-Day, yeah, we landed all these troops in Normandy and in France, but it was not a victory. The war could still be lost. And without Patton and his Third Army, it would have been lost. Mm-hmm. But what happened on D-Day was we saw that we could win. We had a plan. We acted on the plan. It worked. And we put a system in place that made it possible for us to win, but it didn't guarantee any victory. Mm-hmm. Well, the same thing is true here.
Right.
Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court doesn't guarantee us anything.
That's right.
Nothing.
Right.
So I think it is like D-Day. And a couple of things I want to caution people about. First off, don't make a hero out of Susan Collins. The Republicans want you to believe that she's Winston Churchill or something,
right,
and made this Churchillian-like speech, which is not true. Just listen to it. It's just a speech.
Right.
And yes, we should be thankful that she voted the right way. But simply because somebody did the right thing
right,
does not make them a hero.
Right. Well, and she says in this article that I pulled, it says, I have never Well, basically, she says that I will work to preserve funding for Planned Parenthood over and over again. I'm going to continue to do so.
Right.
I mean, so she's saying
She's
right
not our
here
hero.
that she's still going to continue to work for them. So
She's always been a pro-abort. She always will be. So let's don't make a hero out of this person. And I made an analogy to you. If you have a son that's still in high school, if he found another kid's wallet laying in the hallway,
right.
and he picked up the wallet and saw who it belonged to and maybe took it to the office, or if he knew the kid took it and gave it back to him, that's the right thing to do.
That's right.
But that doesn't make him a hero.
That's right.
That does not make him a hero. It just means, hey, when he was confronted with a moral decision, he made the right decision.
Right.
And that's
what she
what
did.
was happening here.
Yeah.
But let's don't make Susan Collins a hero. The other thing I need to caution people about is us backing off, because I've been at this over 35 years, and I have seen this a million times. We have a victory, and we tend to back off and say, oh, we can take a break.
Yeah,
and,
right. We can breathe now.
we can breathe.
Right.
And I've seen this time and time again when we elect a Republican president or a pro-life president, we think we can back off. And right now, it's very tempting for us to say, okay, we've got a pro-life Senate.
Right.
We've got a pro-life House of Representatives. We've got a pro-life president. And now we've got a pro-life majority on the Supreme Court.
That's right.
We can back off and let them do our work.
That's not true.
They are not going to do our work.
Right.
I promise you.
Right.
So we got to tap the brakes a little bit on this idea that everything's fine. We got to get back to work.
Right.
And evidence that we're not working, you're talking about pulling the news every day, is how little news you've been able to pull that didn't have something to do with Kavanaugh.
Everything has to do with Kavanaugh
Everything,
right now.
right.
Yeah.
So we've got to get back in harness and start pulling our weight and making sure we understand that this battle is a long way from over.
That's right.
And if you think the battle over Kavanaugh was nasty, wait till you see something that actually happens that could end abortion in this country, whether it's in the Supreme Court or in the Congress or Senate or a state legislature. What happened here with Kavanaugh will seem like a third grade food fight
That's right.
compared to what that will be like.
It's going to be really ugly.
It's going to be really nasty. It's going to be ugly. And I'll tell you something else. It's going to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Because these people, like I said a moment ago, are savages. Right. And I think now the American people can see that. And
I hope so.
I'm hoping that it's turning people around on that.
Yeah, and Trump has done a very good job exposing the media too. So
they're part of the savages.
That's right.
Savages.
That's right.
The savages in this country are made up of three groups: the godless left, the Democratic Party now, and it wasn't always that way, but it is now, and the media. Trump has said the media is the enemy of the American people. It absolutely is. They get all nasty and get their panties all in a wad about it when he says things like that. Mm-hmm. But the reason they get mad about it is because it's true.
That's right.
The media, and again, I wrote that many, many years ago, that I said that one day, if this country collapses, somebody will write a thing called The Rise and Fall of the American Empire, like the rise and fall of the Roman Empire,
Right.
Mm-hmm. And they'll look at all the factors. If they don't say that one of the factors that destroyed this country was the media, then they're not getting the whole picture.
Yeah.
Because they are destroying this country.
Yeah.
They're out to destroy it.
Right.
And now you're seeing more and more evidence of this, and I hope that people are smart enough to realize what's going on. Yeah. But the cultural civil war rages on, and this is a major battle in it.
Yeah.
And whether it's a victory or not for us depends on what we do. And it's just like D-Day. Could you argue that D-Day was a victory? No, you can't. What you can argue is that it made victory possible. It was all the stuff that happened after D-Day that won the war. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, victory, it was a victory in the sense that it made victory possible.
Right.
But in and of itself, it was not a victory. The same thing is true here.
Yeah. Got to keep fighting and
we've got to keep going.
Keep pushing.
Right.
That's right.
And nobody's going to do that except the pro-life movement.
Right.
We cannot sit around and wait for the Republicans or the Supreme Court or Congress or the Senate or whatever to do our job for us. We can't do that.
That's right.
Anyway, you got anything else?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't have anything else.
Nobody's commenting?
No, it glitched.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, we're having some, probably because of the rain.
Probably
internet
because of the
issues.
weather, yep.
Yeah. So if you have any comments or any show ideas, let us know. And if we use your idea, we will send you this mug. It's a pretty cool mug. But let us know. We would love to hear from you. You can call or you can send a private message, email, however.
Smoke signal.
Smoke signal. I can talk.
Sometimes that would be faster than all this latest high-tech nonsense that you and I argue back and forth about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say, sometimes I'll tell Renee to do something, and I'll say, hey, did you talk to so-and-so? And she'll say,
Yeah,
oh, yeah, I talked to him. And then I found out she didn't talk to him.
I send them a text.
You send them a text or
Or
an
an
email or something. That's her version of talking to somebody. No, talking is like this. You wouldn't say that we were talking if I were sitting here sending you emails and texts back and forth across the table, would you?
Yeah, well, sometimes, though, those people want an email or a text
Well,
besides talking.
I guess I'm just old-fashioned or old fuddy-duddy, as y'all all call me around here. And worse than that, sometimes they call me. But anyway, if you have any questions or comments, be sure and send them to Renee, because she's the keeper of the flame here. And we'd love to hear from you, because we try to make this show as a service to you. So Renee is the one you need to talk to. Is that it?
That's it.
Until next Tuesday, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next week.